Hi there. So today in our blog, we're going to talk about polycystic ovary syndrome. So real quick, what's the definition of polycystic ovary syndrome? Number one, the person has an abnormal menstrual cycle. Number two, there's too much testosterone being made. And number three, a large number of ovarian cysts. Now, technically speaking, you need only 2 out of 3 of these in order to be diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome. Next, how does it pronounce itself? And why is this potentially a very devastating condition or disease for the young woman or women in general? For starters, it manifests as a normal menstrual cycle, including the pain, abnormal bleeding. That's number one. Number two, there's associated weight gain. One of the challenges is there's insulin resistance, too much insulin. That leads to weight gain, but also leads to creation of too much testosterone. And number three, one of the most frustrating and psychologically devastating components is abnormal hair that one can experience both on the face, the arms, and below the belly button. So, what can be done about it? The better approach is to think of it both short term and long term. Let's start short term. What can you do now? We'll talk about what you can do 6 months from now or what you can do over the next couple of years. First and foremost, meet with your gynecologist. Make sure you get the appropriate test, the blood work, as the ultrasound, looking at your ovaries, so that this condition can be more formally diagnosed. Your gynecologist has a couple of important options. Number one, they can put you on a birth control pill that will help with the normal menstrual cycle. They can also give you medications that will reduce the amount of insulin and, more importantly, the amount of testosterone being made. The closer that testosterone level is to normal for a woman, the less pronounced these symptoms are going to be. They can also give you medication that will help with the insulin resistance. So those multiple components are really important as a starting point for treatment of polycystic ovary syndrome. Number two, you can work on your nutrition. And this is really important. While everybody would agree it's great to eat healthy, but what's the practical approach? So the practical approach is trying to eat foods that have a lower glycemic index. What's a glycemic index? Well, when you eat a particular food, that causes your insulin to go up in response to the increase in blood sugar. Foods such as white bread, rice, some of the baked goods, they can cause a large rise in sugar in the blood and subsequently a large increase in insulin. That can lead to insulin resistance. In addition to gaining weight, increased insulin contributes to increased amount of testosterone. So eating habits are a crucial part. Another component is working with an electrolysis specialist. As mentioned before, the abnormal hair growth is truly a devastating thing for young women. So there is a way to address the cosmetic component so that it's not as difficult to deal with psychologically. And then an additional part is working with a psychologist. This is not simply an abnormal menstrual cycle. There's so many components, including depressive symptoms, low self-image, and working with a really good psychologist, that may help you get through those difficult times until the effects of the treatment, the other components, play their role. So that's in the short term. This is practical, something that can be done today. One doesn't have to wait for the effects to take place 6 months from now or a year from now. So that's short term. So what can be done for the long term? One component is looking out for your gut health. That's right, we hear about gut health all the time. So what's important in terms of gut health here? You want to have a favorable ratio of good bacteria compared to bad bacteria. Probably the words good and bad aren't the right way to look at it, but they're bacteria that contribute to weight gain and inflammation. And then there are bacteria that improve and contribute to weight loss and less inflammation. You could utilize prebiotics, which is basically the nutritional part for the good bacteria. You can utilize the probiotics, which is the good bacteria. And probiotics can be found in multiple foods. The natural way would be to have yogurt, kefir, and also sauerkraut. Now, that may not be what you want to do, but those are the natural ways to get it. And in addition, there are many over-the-counter forms of probiotics. So that's one. Number two, concentrating on weight loss. Yes, we already mentioned eating healthy, exercise, but there are additional important options available to you, one of which is the use of medications that are considered and called GLP-1 family. So, for example, Wegovy, Zepbound, these medications can help people lose a really significant amount of weight. In the studies, up to around 20% of your weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you could lose about 30 pounds. With that said, these medications have not been officially studied for treatment of PCOS, so further research is going to be required. Lastly, there are also alternative approaches, acupuncture, some of the herbal remedies. While it's difficult for me to talk about them because the scientific evidence is relatively sparse, but these are things to at least be aware of to do your own homework. So, in conclusion, are there things you can do to help in the treatment of PCOS? Absolutely. Are there things you can do starting today? Definitely. Can this be a disease that could be treated, improve, and allow you to have a better normal quality of life? Definitely. Hey, look, I wish you all the best in your journey. Please press the like button, subscribe, and leave some of your comments. I love to read them and to answer them. Take care.